I know what you were thinking. Perverts. Hello everyone, and welcome to A Walker in the Woods. My name is Stephen Walker, and today I want to talk about subliminal messaging and how it is sicker than many people know and can probably even imagine. But first, if you tune in and turn on to this content, consider giving me one of these. It helps the algorithm. Subliminal messaging, what is it? Subliminal messages are stimuli presented below the threshold of conscious awareness, designed to influence thoughts or behaviors without the individual's conscious perception. These messages can be visual, like brief flashes of text or images, or auditory, like whispers beneath music. While their effectiveness is debated, they are often used in advertising and media to subtly shape perceptions and potentially influence decisions. For this episode, I want to begin with a brief history of where subliminal messaging first began, how it is used in Hollywood and throughout mass media, and specifically advertising. But let's go back to the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, and that was basically the birth of manipulative messaging, and it begins with Edward Bernays. I talked about Edward Bernays in a recent video, but he is the nephew, or was the nephew, of Sigmund Freud, and he is considered to be the father of public relations. In his 1928 book Propaganda, Bernays argued that masses must be guided by an elite who understand the unconscious mind. Right there, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? On what we are given to watch and eat and listen to. But he applied Freudian psychology to advertising and politics, effectively shaping public opinion by appealing to human beings' hidden desires rather than rational thought. For example, I spoke of this in a recent video as well. It was the Lucky Strikes. Women weren't smoking them, and he basically made it socially acceptable for women to start smoking. He changed the color of women's dresses and apparel, basically created a fad into dark green, which is, oddly enough, the Lucky Strikes color, the brand, the package. And he also called cigarettes torches of freedom. In the 1950s, subliminal messaging goes mainstream. In 1957, James Vicary, or Vicary, a market researcher, claimed that he increased sales of popcorn and Coca-Cola by flashing images of eat popcorn and drink Coca-Cola for 1/3000th of a second during movies. 1/3000th of a second. It's impossible for our physical eye to catch it. Subliminally, possible. Though later revealed as a hoax, the story did ignite public fear, and it also ignited fascination with subliminal advertising. Hollywood soon latched on to this concept and started introducing it into thrillers and satire. In the 1960s and 70s, the CIA got involved, and they reportedly experimented with subliminal and psychological warfare techniques. For example, MK Ultra is a pretty deep topic, and I may go into that one episode in the future. But one in particular, when I was a child, I'd wake up Saturday mornings. Back then, it wasn't 24-hour television. It was like, I think, 6 a.m., 5 a.m. I can't remember the time, but I'd wake up before the station went on air, and it was just color bars. And then once it hit like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, the first thing that would play is the National Anthem. And then the cartoons would start, and I'd sit there in front of that television all Saturday morning. But that National Anthem, if you haven't heard, now you can Google this, you can YouTube it, you can find videos of it, but if you play it very, very slowly, in some of the original versions, investigators and video analysts have found that subliminal text flashes between the lines of the National Anthem lyrics. Words like obey, consume, conform, trust the government, and watch television were allegedly inserted between legitimate subtitles flashing for just a single frame. If you watch it, the subtitles will go across the screen. Oh, say, can you see? And as it goes across, the subliminal text is very faint, and it follows the wipe. It follows the fade of the text of the song. The speed 1/30th of a second is designed to bypass conscious perception but still register subconsciously. Don't believe me? Do your own research, check it out. In 1962, the Manchurian Candidate, a very popular movie at the time, played on mind control and hidden programming. Then in 1974, the FCC issued warnings against subliminal advertising. However, it never outright banned it in the United States. Only deceptive advertising is prohibited. So the government knew, the government did it, and just to placate the masses, they say, okay, we're going to look into this. We're going to look into this. Kind of like the Epstein files. We're going to look into this. Oh, nothing to see here. Move along. Get back on that wheel, hamsters. In the 1980s and 90s, moral panic and music. So Led Zeppelin, Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest all came under fire, especially with Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife. It's funny how all these presidents' wives always have to have some kind of pet project to be working on. Nancy Reagan had her war on drugs. Big Mike had something about health and dancing on stage with Ellen. I don't know. But Tipper Gore, she was best known for her advocacy for parental advisory labels on music. And they basically took a number of bands to court. And I think his name is D. Sanders, but he testified, and he was very well spoken. Frank Zappa as well was very outspoken for freedom of speech. But the thing is, you know, when Tipper had the parental advisory stickers on all of these labels, explicit lyrics, guess what happened to the sales? They went up, especially amongst the youth. If you tell a child that they can't do something or can't have something, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go get it. And then we get into advertising. So in the 80s and 90s, it really became pretty apparent. Commercials like Pepsi and Marlboro, Coca-Cola, Burger King, McDonald's, you choose the big company, and they did it. They used fast cuts, flashing imagery, repetition, and of course, the number one thing that sells is sex. You know, a lot of these advertisements are actually quite innocent on the surface. A lot of these big companies, they hire these PR execs and they come up with some pretty spiffy logos. For example, Baskin & Robbins, the big B and R, you can see a 31 flavors. Or the Tostitos image on the bags looks like two people holding a bowl of tortilla chips. Amazon, of course, A to Z with a smiley face. But once you start diving deeper into the deep end, it gets quite disturbing. And let's take a look. For example, Camel cigarettes no longer use this character, but they used to use the character Joe Camel. And children actually, back in the day, knew who Joe Camel was over Mickey Mouse. And if you look at the camel's face, and his nose, and his upper lip in particular, it looks like male genitalia. Burger King, if we just take a look at this image, it'll blow your mind away. That's not all it's gonna blow. She looks like a blow-up doll, actually, and she's ready for a big, fat, juicy sandwich. Not very subliminal there. This Coke can, if you take a look at the top of the can, you can see a silhouette of a curvy woman. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, but I want to take a closer look at one of the top film industries for children and how dirty they actually are. Can you guess which one? It's Disney. First, I want to take a look at The Lion King. I'm sure most of you have seen this image, but this first image is from the 1995 Laserdisc version. And as Simba collapses, dust forms SEX in the sky. And then in 2003, the DVD release, it was significantly changed, and you can hardly make out what it used to read. And one more from The Lion King. The poster, if you look at his nose again, something about advertising and noses. I guess noses are a bit phallic if you really kind of look at it. But Simba's nose here, you can see a curvy woman and a G-string. Moving on to Disney film number 2 is The Little Mermaid at her wedding scene, or at a wedding scene. I've never seen the film. I guess that's the main character getting married. I don't know. But take a quick look at the priest who appears to be having a boner during the wedding. And when called out on this, Disney responded that the bulge under his robe was his knees. And of course, this was edited out later in releases that came after the outrage. So that just kind of goes to show you that there are power in numbers, people. When you stand up against the machine, they will bow. Why? Because you have the money, which they want. And so basically that means you, or you collectively, you singularly and you plural, hold more power than you realize. And one more from The Little Mermaid. This is a 1989 VHS cover. And the castle turret also resembles a big dick, a phallus. And of course, Disney, when called out, claimed that it was an accident by a disgruntled artist. Okay, yeah, he was disgruntled, he was pissed off, so he puts a big dick in the poster, and no one noticed it. The poster that goes out to promote this film, and no one noticed that big, shining, golden staff. One more TV, I mean, there are countless TV cartoons. Rocko's Modern Life, The Simpsons. I don't know, I don't watch cartoons, but when I was in college, way back when, in the mid-90s, there was a cartoon called Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon. And that cartoon, I knew, was not meant for children. It had a lot of adult themes, and this one in particular, if we look at this image, this was The Log, a commercial parody with sexual undertones of, I think the Chihuahua was Ren and the cat was Stimpy. So I can't remember what was going on, but Ren is sawing a log on Stimpy's ass. If a cartoon is made specifically for adults and children don't get a hold of it, I don't have a problem with that. But because cartoons are colorful, funny, engaging, they're manipulative as hell, even for adults. But for children to start watching suggestive content like that, it's a recipe for disaster. So I guess the question is, why do animators insert sexual innuendos into children's content, Disney in particular, and advertisements that go out across the mainstream media 24/7? One possibility, dark humor and inside jokes. Some animators see it just as a prank, an innocent prank. They try to slip something past the censors to see if they can get away with it. But a huge corporation like that has so much money invested, I don't see how, there may be only a handful of censors, and then you put the film out in front of test audiences, and I mean, it goes through a lot of steps before it hits the big screen. One animator was quoted as saying, "Oh, it was just a joke." An anonymous Disney animator reported this in The Hollywood Reporter. But he said, "We never thought anyone would actually notice." Has subliminal messaging gotten that bad that we're all a bunch of sheep and we just sit and drink our Coke and eat our popcorn and watch the Disney golden dick flash in front of our eyes and no one cares, no one notices? A second possibility is rebellion against the corporate control. So inserting something taboo can be a way of rebelling or marking territory in a sterile, highly sanitized system. Disney, I kind of dreamed to be an animator one day, way back in the day. I'm a right-brained fella, and I wanted to major in art. And I kind of thought, yeah, drawing cartoons, that would be exciting. But I mean, the reality of it is you're sitting there, before AI came out anyways, and it was actually hand-drawn. It's a very repetitious job, and I presume it can become quite boring. So idle time is the devil's workshop. If you keep drawing Bart Simpson 24/7, I mean, you're not allowing your brain to create. You get bored and rebellious, and I get it. Subconscious influence is the point, is the third possibility. Sexual imagery is powerful because it taps directly into the primal subconscious, even when the conscious mind doesn't register it. That is the whole point of subconscious advertising. Some advertisers and propagandists study this deliberately, going way back to Edward Bernays. If you can associate a brand or idea with sex or debauchery or humor, even subtly, it can hook into your brain chemistry. We don't know it. We don't understand it. We don't even see it. That's the whole point. You say, oh, I would have noticed that. No, you wouldn't have. This shit is down to an art. So I have a question. Are these people that are doing this, are they sick or just desensitized? I guess it depends. Some are probably just edgy pranksters wanting to get away with something, but I know that there's a much darker possibility too, and a lot of these people are perverse, and they're intentionally slipping these things into children's programs, and are kind of like a handler. Hollywood is swimming. It's a cesspool. Hollyweird, I should say, not Hollywood. I'm giving them too much credit. There is documented history of this, slipping things in purposely from suggestive drawings and worse. And I wanted, for time's sake, I'm not going to go into this topic very far, but I mean, there is a long list of people who have been brought up on charges, and incarcerated for being perverts and pederasts. So the bigger issue here is, why is this even allowed, and how is it allowed? Certain accidents do get by past the layers of editing and review. I understand that, we're all human. Well, not all of us. And anymore with AI, I mean, it's probably almost impossible to get something by unless you really want it to with AI. But I would say that there are two possibilities why or how these things get through and passed on to the public. Number one, the person at the top of the chain doesn't care, or the person at the top of the chain knows and he or she lets it slide. Disney, Nickelodeon, and others have quietly removed or edited scenes after public outcry and exposure, which basically is an admission of guilt, even if they don't ever officially say so. So how can we combat this? You know, as a public, and I am part of the public, and as you are, so how do we combat? How do we fight back? Again, the dollar. We have the dollar. I have a few dollars, not a lot of dollars, but collectively we have quite a few dollars. And that dollar is your vote. And you can go to the board, your board in your local community and speak out. You can petition. But here are a few that I'd like to share. Number one would be watch with awareness. Ask, why am I being shown this? If indeed you even notice anything at all. Who benefits by this image or this theme being presented on this particular program? And basically assume that there's always a deeper motive behind the messaging. If you assume that there is, and you don't have to be labeled a conspiracy theorist, but just assume that there is, and you're probably right, more times than not, especially in advertising. Number two is mute the message. It's a beautiful evening now. It was hot as hell earlier. Try watching commercials or content without sound or without visuals. That's good for the brain. Just turn off the volume, or listen to the volume and don't watch the video. You might be surprised how you can spot music, colors, or camera angles that influence emotion. Color is very, very, very important when it comes to controlling human emotion. I may go into colors one day. But number three would be disconnect. Disconnect often. Spend much more time out in nature, or just in silence at your home. Go into your closet, turn and close the door, and meditate. Without the constant input, you'll sharpen your inner voice. And by doing so, you can notice external influences more easily. The next one would be to educate your subconscious. If you can fill your mind with meaningful, true, and noble ideas through reading, meditating, opening the Bible again, reflection, even prayer, a well-fed soul is harder to manipulate. A lot of people are waking up these days, and I might be talking on deaf ears if the people that are actually tuning in to this video, they probably already have a very good idea of what I'm talking about. Next would be create, not consume. Start creating your own content, be it YouTube or Twitter. Break out those paints that you have in the drawer. Dust off the guitar, open the piano, do something creative. You basically move from being a programmed sheep to being a programmer, from passive to active. And finally, use the remote. That's the one that my dad always used to use. If you still have a remote, use it. both literally and figuratively. Don't be afraid to turn it off, especially if you have children sitting there watching it with you. The power is truly in your hands, and every second of attention is a vote. If you're not watching it, that's another vote. You vote with your money, and you vote with your time. So, in closing, I just want to say I'm not a prude. I'm not here to poo-poo sex in advertising. The point is just for people to be more aware about it. I understand human behavior and nature, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for sex. But I do believe that part of waking up to what's going on is taking back control of understanding how deep this manipulation is. It explains a lot why it seems that society is unraveling. You know, we're looking at, I mean, I'm from the 70s. I was born in the 70s when this subliminal messaging was kind of getting underway. And that's 50 years of social programming without most people knowing it. And they learned this behavior by watching all of this news and Hollywood films and television programs, and a lot of these shows use predictive programming in the messaging. So in this vid, I've only really touched the surface. There are so many to choose from. And again, if you're watching this, I assume that you already have a pretty good grasp on this topic. If you don't, then please message me. Drop a note below and say, give me some more, and I will. I just simply wanted to put this out. It's on my mind, and it kind of rode on the coattails of No News is Good News, which I put out yesterday. I'm going to leave you with a quote by Carl Jung. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So that's one of those age-old questions, you know, do we have free will, or is it fate? Is the book already written? I don't know the answer to that, but if you believe in fate, and then you also follow along with the social narrative that you're absorbing from social media, your fate is likely written by someone in Hollywood. Subliminal messages only work if you're asleep. So wake up, pay attention, and take your mind back. Now here is your moment of Zen.